difficult. But I think the time is now, is things are getting so critical that I think people maybe are going to have to, what is it Shakespeare said, screw their courage to the sticking place.
You've said that a couple of times now, that it's getting so critical, but paint a picture of how bleak that you see things at the moment.
Oh, boy. I would say that there has been a breakdown in the very authority of the state. I would say the legitimacy of the state is now in question. And that comes from betrayal of such massive proportions, and indeed some of the actions of the state over the past 20, 25 years. So, for example, take the rape gangs that we've alluded to. There you've had a situation where from local authority through institutions like the police and the social services and the media and all the rest of it, right up to, I suppose, parliamentary level or whatever, has been systematic cover-up of what were the rape of the daughters of this country. To me, any government that colludes in that or turns a blind eye or does nothing about it has abandoned the very main function that they have, which is to keep the citizens of the country safe. And therefore, I think that they have forfeited their legitimacy. So that's how bad I think it is. People don't necessarily have to even sort of use flowery words or whatever. They sense something is wrong. They sense, and I get the feeling over the past, I'd say 6 months since Christmas time, roughly, of a real change, of a kind of darkness that has come over the place. I mean, it's very hard to explain quite what you mean, but you sort of see it. I believe as well, in answer to carrying on with your question, that we cannot rely on the enforcers of the law. We can't rely on the police. I think the police are entirely captured. And I think the police now are there simply to uphold the kind of multicultural ideology. We saw this during the Gaza demonstrations, where basically it was about crowd control. What it absolutely showed was that there was a fear of people kicking off. That was the main motivation. So, when you had those appalling demonstrations and some of the things that were said during that time, the police just basically allowed it. They allowed people to climb over our monuments. They allowed people to say the things they did because they were frightened of actually imposing the law, which would be that this is a support for a terrorist organization, for example, in the case of Hamas. This is a terrorist supporting slogan, all of those things. And I think it's just simply born of a fear that essentially, in that case, the pro-Palestinian or the Muslim crowd would kick off. And I think that, therefore, the police now act to keep suppressing, if you like, the say white working class people, which we've seen, I think, already this year, and we will see again, or last year, for example, we saw in the Southport disorder, very strong, straight down the line. What was interesting about that, Peter, was that usually when you get a big riot, like we've had, like most recently 2011, I guess, in London.
So the Croydon riots.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, it was across London, but
yeah,
we all know about the pictures from Croydon. With that, it's always said afterwards, yes, but look, this is terrible. Law breaking is law breaking, but we must try to understand why maybe this happened. We must try and understand the reasons. You always have that, except for this time. There was no attempt to understand. It was straight into jail. people were in jail for things they put on social media. There was no attempt to understand why people might have reached a pitch of frustration and anger. Nothing. It was just simply, you are wrong, you are boneheaded, racist, and all the rest of it. I think that will be the general position of the government and the police force going forward. That is, so far as I can see, is a case where the police are not, if you like, working with general consent at all, that they are actually now into simply imposing a situation on people that they never ever wanted. And so all of that makes me feel it's about the worst time I can remember, and I'm 64, right? So I know the 70s, and I know when we were called the sick man of Europe and all of that. That's all true. All the economics, true. Great supporter of Thatcher, I was. But culturally speaking, we were quite intact, actually. It was always the economic argument then, but culturally speaking, we were intact. That has gone entirely now. And what worries me, we did an interview recently. I did an interview on the channel with David Betts. You might get him on, but Professor David Betts. And he's from, I think it's London University, I think. But he's a sort of specialist in, things like riot and disorder and modern warfare, should I say. And it was all about the possibilities of what is Britain heading for civil war. You're seeing this a lot more on social media, I think.
Yeah, I'm hearing this. I don't. It depends how people think it manifests itself.
Yes,
I'm actually surprised we haven't had more riots and more civil disobedience. We're seeing some, and I saw some last week in Northern Ireland.
Yeah, Ballymena.
Yes. And there are pockets of activity, but I'm surprised we haven't had more mass protests against the government in London. We had the farmers, but more of civil society coming together for a mass protest to say we're unhappy. I'm just shocked we haven't.
I couldn't agree with you more. I'm not completely shocked, but I agree with you. We haven't. I would love to see it. What is wrong with people who have, are up to the back teeth with whether it's illegal migration or mass uncontrolled migration, or whether it is things like the grooming gangs and what has been revealed there. You don't see 300,000 people walking through London or whatever. It's partly, that's always tended to be the case, that people who feel strongly, in fact, people who make up the majority, tend not to go on demos like that. I think what makes it harder now is that people are frightened of who might join the demo, extremist groups and genuine or far right people, and they get worried that they're going to be tarred with the brush. I do think, though, that if things go on like they are, then people will start to lose those inhibitions, actually. I hope they do, because, if they're peaceful, why shouldn't they have mass rallies in Hyde Park? Why not? I think that, I would love to see that properly done with the police and all of that. We have had demonstrations. Obviously, there have been the
farmers
part, like with Tommy Robinson,
yeah.
People, but I mean sort of bigger, wider ones. You get like, these hundreds of thousands of people. And I think that somehow people have got to say, right, okay, there are drawbacks to this, but you know what? They're going to call us terrible things anyway.
Yeah.
So frankly, let's just go ahead and do it. Become more visible. People have got to be more visible, I think.